Hello and welcome to episode number 316. This is the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com and I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Welcome back. Today we are going to take a look at a business process approach that is quite new and quite unique called Project Workflow Management. When I initially asked Dan Epstein and Rich Maltzman to come on the program for this interview, I didn't quite know what to expect. I knew that they had written a book about project workflow management, but what I didn't know is that the book is really only part of the package. Their website, pm-workflow.com, not only offers many free tools to download, but also a teaching aid CD. I also didn't expect to find a quote by Dr. Kerzner, in which he says point blank that project workflow management appears to be the best alternative and significantly more valuable to us project managers than complex methodologies and processes. That is quite an endorsement coming from Dr. Kerzner. This episode of the Project Management Podcast is sponsored by the Prepcast. If you are a project manager who wants to become PMP or PMI ACP certified, then the easiest way to do so is with one of our sister podcasts, the PM Prepcast or the Agile Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching the in-depth exam prep video training from pmprepcast.com. So in today's interview, we will learn about workflow management from various angles, like how it differs from waterfall methodologies and Agile, its primary benefit, the tools it offers, how simple it is to apply, and of course, how we project managers can start using this new approach that Dr. Kerzner likes so much. And now, let your projects flow. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcasts feature interview.
Today with Dan Epstein and Rich Maltzman, co-authors of the book Project Workflow Management. All right. Hello, Dan and Rich. Welcome to the program. Dan, hello.
Hi. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Rich, welcome back.
It's great to be back, Cornelius.
So both of you are co-authors of the new book, Project Workflow Management. And in our first interview right now, we want to give a general overview of the subject and of the book. So let me start out with the two questions that everyone who's listening in right now will be asking themselves. So first of all, Dan, what is Project Workflow Management?
Well, Project Workflow Management is the first book in the market based on the PM Workflow Framework, a continuous dynamic flow of necessary executable processes with logical decision-making and detailed instructions for their execution, along with tools, control point tests, templates, checklists, tips, and many examples. PM workflow can be compared to the project GPS, Global Positioning System. Just as GPS automatically select the most efficient route to drive and change it when a road construction or heavy traffic is encountered, PM workflow dynamically directs the project flow by selecting processes in the project execution path based on the system of requests, decision checkpoints, decision tables, and project health evaluation results.
Okay, and of course, second, how does project workflow management differ from, shall we call it, normal project management?
When using standard PM methods, the quality of the project will directly correlate to project manager's experience and ability. And it is up to the individual project manager and corporate guidelines to ensure the quality of the project. If PM skips on some required processes, such as risk management or quality management or earned value analysis, they just won't be implemented, and the project quality will be the victim of such neglect. The existing PM methods don't provide any timely indication if PM skips execution of some processes. PM workflow is a project management using methods to enforce execution of all required project processes in the correct time. It will guide PM step by step, constantly performing qualitative assessment of outcomes and dynamically redirecting the project flow to the alternative execution path. And also, when issues arise, it will suggest steps for their resolution.
Yeah, this is Rich. I'd say it works on the micro level, such as describing in detail the process that the PM uses for identifying, analyzing, and responding to threats. But as Dan said, it works also at the macro level, assuring that risk management as a process is interconnected to and used with the other processes.
Okay, and just so that our listeners know, the way that we've decided to do the interview is Dan will answer most of the questions and then Rich will jump in with any clarifying information that he may have. But Rich, I have a clarifying question for you based on what Dan said here. Dan was talking about, it kind of works like a GPS and it will automatically select the correct route that you have to drive. So is project workflow management a system that's in place that will automatically select this, or is this something that I do manually, or how does that work?
Well, it's a book that has the processes diagrammed out quite visually, I might add, and then it's able to be adapted into software. Dan will talk about that later. There are already some tools from the book, software-wise, available for download, but the guidance that Dan's talking about is the guidance of these flowcharts that dictate do this, then do that. It is definitely a methodology.
All right. Okay, then back to Dan. So we've heard the difference between project workflow management and the regular project management. What is then the difference between project workflow management and the waterfall method? Is there a difference?
Yes, definitely. Very significant difference. In the waterfall method, the project execution path is sequential. It starts with the initiation phase and moves on to the planning phase and so on. In the PM workflow, the execution path will go forth and back between a related group of processes, which we call frames, as well as between individual processes in each frame. PM workflow transforms the waterfall method into the logically directed process flow.
And if you want to keep a water analogy, it's more like PM workflow is more like a focused and very directed, forceful stream. That's why we chose our cover. If you look at the cover, you'll see what...
That looks like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, you'll see what a well-directed flow of water can do given some time and consistent application. So here you see the Colorado River doing just a bit of work on the rocks around it to create something quite majestic. If you haven't been there, you need to go and see the work the Colorado did on the Grand Canyon. So that's why we chose that cover quite intentionally.
What about Agile? How does it match up with Agile methodologies?
Well, there is a page in the book which explains how PM workflow works in the Agile. I can provide you some information, but I believe listeners don't know yet terminology, and it will be maybe slightly difficult to understand. But if they get to read the book, they will see explanation how it can be adjusted to Agile.
Okay. Let's take a step back here. Why did you decide to write a book about project workflow management? What was the underlying reason for you?
There are many PM books on the market, but there is no book that provides a complete and detailed step-by-step guidance and instructions for managing projects hands-on from the day they get a new project request until the tested product is released to clients. As I mentioned earlier, PM workflow dynamically navigates through a project process flow and select processes in the project execution path based on the system of request, decision checkpoint, decision tables, acceptance criteria, and the project health evaluation results. This approach leads PM through the dynamically changing process flow path of the entire project lifecycle. The mandatory quality assessment of outcomes will control the process flow, directing it to the alternative path when issues come up. PM workflow ensures that all required processes and only the required processes are executed when needed. Actually, it is not just ensures, it forces execution of all required processes. Way too often, I meet people with PMP certifications who have no hands-on experience in managing projects. Those things happen, unfortunately. This happens before the hands-on experience is not one of the PM core competencies on PMI list. If PMI, and I mean Project Management Institute, if they had this PM competency as a prerequisite with the corresponding exams, the PM certification would really be a sign of the first-class PM specialist. This book eliminates the gap between PMBOK and the industry needs. PMI, when presenting the book to readers, wrote that the book has a holistic approach to project management, which I understand as a comprehensive, everything you need to know of and practice about project management.
From my perspective, Cornelius, writing the book was a chance to contribute what seemed like a missing piece to us. The method is the part that's not in the PMBOK, admittedly, right? The PMBOK guide states that it's a framework.
Yeah, I think this is also something that I read in your book. You said, we have methodologies, we have the PMBOK guide that talk high level about how to do project management generally, but there really isn't much there that really is talking about the processes. How do you actually do this live? Right. Boots on the ground,
right.
on your project.
And when.
And when,
right.
Exactly. And so is this where, the great primary benefit of workflow management is over regular project management?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that when using standard PM methods, the quality of the project will directly correlate to project manager's experience and ability. PM workflow eliminates this dependency to a great extent. It prompts and instructs project managers in every step of the project lifecycle. It provides a unique step-by-step workflow guiding approach using project management methods, practical techniques, examples, tools, templates, checklists, and tips, providing even an inexperienced project manager with the detailed and necessary knowledge required to manage projects step-by-step, hands-on from scratch. PM workflow instructs project manager what to do, when to do it, and how to do it during the entire project lifecycle. PM workflow will minimize the need for the experienced and expensive project managers, as the workflow will protect the less experienced project managers against most project lifecycle errors. This better use of project resources will reduce the cost of projects across all industries and enterprises. I will speak about this maybe later when I have the opportunity. The experienced PM will be able to supervise several junior PMs and also manage programs and portfolios.
Let's stay within what you have just talked about. You say that the PM workflow will guide the project manager to do this. But what techniques does, project workflow management use to help me select the optimal execution path?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, the project flow execution path is based on a set of incoming requests to each frame and decision tables and so on. Decision tables identify which main processes should be executed based on incoming requests. For example, the small scope change planning request to the planning frame requires no risk management planning, no communication management planning, and no some other planning processes. Actually, the definition of the small scope change request and the large scope change request is described in details in the book. Since a small change request must not introduce new risk, this is a requirement. No new stakeholders or business users, then no risk planning and no communication planning are required. The large scope change request may execute those processes, and the project execution path will change accordingly. The logical decision point or checkpoint always identifies a specific condition by answering yes or no. For example, if the checkpoint acceptable value when we do earned value analysis, for example, confirms that the result is acceptable, that means yes, the cycle continues. If not, the process flow is directed to the trouble project assessment process, which can establish the reason for the poor project performance, and then the flow goes on to the take corrective action process. For the project health evaluation result, PM workflow performs quality assessment by running the earned value analysis in the repeating cycle at least once a week, and sometimes more frequently depending on circumstances. If issues arise, the process flow is redirected to the alternative execution path when required, and often suggests steps for their resolution. In addition to earned value analysis, there are quality management audits. Quality management audits use checklists as the main quality tool. There are 14 checklists which cover all project areas, such as financials, risk management, communication management, estimating, etc. Checklists must be filled out by PM before the quality audit. All answers must be answered yes, and the documented proof must exist that each answer is indeed yes. If at least one of the answers is no, that means that the quality gap exists, which must be fixed before the quality audit. The quality analyst reviews all checklists and may ask PM for the documented proof of some or all yes answers.
You know, it almost sounds too easy. I mean, it seems like everything is here, right? We have the flow diagrams with the checkpoints. We have the checklists. It really sounds as if everything is there. So from your perspective, how difficult is it to manage a project using the PM workflow framework?
Well, we believe that with PM workflow, even the inexperienced project manager will be able to use detailed project step-by-step guidance, examples, and tools. Today, it takes lots of efforts and financial resources to teach project manager. Using PM workflow, practically every intelligent person can manage projects from day one, after familiarizing with PM workflow, a running project by executing all processes in the path to eliminate most life cycle errors.
You know, Cornelius, you ask how difficult it is. It's really only as hard as following the flow through a flow chart. Now, it's not the world's most simple flow chart because projects by necessity, they're unique and challenging. So it's a complete and fairly lengthy flow chart. But if you can follow the flow of a flow chart, then you almost hit it on the head. It is actually that easy. Yeah, sure, there's an effort for the transition to this method. But once you get to the point of following these flowcharts, looking at dependencies and so forth, similar to the inputs and outputs of a PMI process, one of the 47 processes, what we've really done, I mean, there's more to it than this, but what we've really done is connected all those inputs and outputs together. It's almost as if we've wired that into a giant, network with even some more thought put into it, we think, than the PMBOK guide to animate the connections between all of those inputs and outputs of all of those processes.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of those flowcharts right now, on page 94 in the book. This is for the preliminary estimate planning path. And yes, I can tell you, it is packed. There is almost no white space left on this page for this particular flowchart. So in regards to the tools and techniques that the book, or rather the method, offers, other than these flowcharts and the checklists that we have already heard of, are there any other specific tools that the project workflow management approach offers?
Yes, there are many of them. PM Workflow provides a variety of methods and tools, some of which can be downloaded from our website, which is pm-workflow.com, and used even today. PM Workflow offers 3 downloadable tools: Earned Value Analysis tool, Risk Assessment and the Basic Risk Plan tool, and tool for the instant indication of client satisfaction level. Before running those tools, I just want to mention, if someone decides to download it, please read instruction first. None of the above tools contains any macros, but there is embedded code in them. Therefore, when you try to open each tool, you must allow macros, because otherwise the embedded code won't be executed and tools won't work. In addition, there is a set of 14 checklists related quality management. I think I mentioned that already. They will ensure that all PM processes are followed. Another tool is a project control book for storage of all project information, including the extensive list of project metrics described in the book. This info may be entered into the database for later retrieval to duplicate successful methods and to avoid repeating mistakes in a future project. You just have to remember this is a book, this is not one comprehensive tool. I wish there were one, but at this point right now, it is just a book. One more tool is established acceptance criteria for most of processes to compare results of project execution with this criteria and establish whether the execution of a process was successful or not. PM Workflow has all the necessary templates for all status report to facilitate knowledge transfer. Another tool is a tool to control and track the process execution called multi-threaded process control and tracking. The tool provides a better, almost instant visibility on a more detailed level than the existing project scheduling and tracking tools. The information provided by this tool will indicate, for example, when exactly a new issue initiated, or new scope change request submitted, or new risk identified. It will also show every step in the issue resolution, scope change process, and risk management process. And I would like to mention one more tool. This is an optional tool. It's called Teaching Aid CD for teachers and instructors of project management. And I believe it has everything to teach project management based on PM Workflow. It has presentation about 1,000 slides covering the entire book, process flow diagrams, 375 open questions which may be used for quizzes or exams, assignments for hands-on project management exercises, which will be done partly under instructor guidance and partly for the individual to do it. The emphasis in exercises will be given to managing project using methods outlined in the textbook. And of course, everything is covered there. Also, the teacher's instructions for each exercise hands out to students. So readers may download the sample of Teaching HCD from our website. Again, I repeated pm-workflow.com.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I actually tried it live here myself, and I can confirm to the readers, yep, it's downloadable, and you don't even have to input your name or email address. So it's a simple click to download here. At least that's what it is right now at the time of recording this interview here. So most companies, they will already have project management in place. They will have a methodology that they have their templates, they have their processes in place. What is the benefit for them to say, okay, we're going to change. We are moving over to the project workflow management framework?
Well, you are correct. Many corporations have already implemented PM processes. But then the question comes, why, according to McKinsey Oxford study, half of the large IT projects run 45% over budget, are 7% behind schedule, and deliver 56% less functionality than planned? I guess the situation is similar for all industries. The main reason for that is a deficiency of quality approach, which controls implementation of all PM processes. Practically, in order to save time, project manager may decide to do few shortcuts in estimating process or risk assessment, or cut down on requirements analysis, the earned value analysis, and so on. It will be almost impossible to skip any process when using PM Workflow because it offers a simple tool that I just mentioned called the thread execution tracking, which records beginning and end of execution of every single process and all the milestones between them, between start and end. This will immediately highlight any attempt to skip on a process. The supervising project manager, or quality analyst will see it right away and can rectify the issue. There are some project managers who say, and I have seen those project managers, they say they already know everything and they don't need PM Workflow to tell them what to do and when. You know, I'm a best practices professional. I had a chance to look into existing project plans made by senior PMs, and I found the astonishing facts. There is very little indication of doing risk assessment, quality management, proper quality management, I would say. Many of those PMs don't even use reports from the Microsoft project or similar tools. They don't enter resource rates, and that's why they cannot do, and they don't do earned value analysis. Also, I have seen many times when resources loading, when you check it, it shows loading of 150%, 200%, up to 800% on a single developer, or many other issues. You cannot really expect much with this type of project management. So PM workflow make it easier for corporations and PMOs to implement a complete break-resistant set of PM processes throughout their organization. This will ensure top quality of their products and the corresponding savings.
If you want to go back to our book cover, the idea that Dan is conveying here could be reflected in the idea that, if effort is water, the workflow mechanisms prevent wasted water going off into tributaries and feathering out instead of driving towards the objectives of the project, which is what happened in the Grand Canyon. You had this consistent, repetitive flow of the Colorado carving out the Grand Canyon. You did not have a lot of this branching off, and that's I think a physical way of describing what Dan explained very well from a technical perspective.
Yeah, PM workflow, thank you, Rich, but PM workflow can also be described here or symbolized, I would say, a boat floating along the Colorado River or any other river which has streams and unexpected turns and everything, and it is much easier sitting in the boat and do certain things to reach the destination than trying to walk all the way through the steep shores. That's kind of another analogy, I would say.
Yep.
All right. Well, in closing, most of our listeners, they are probably in the situation that we have just discussed in the past question. They follow a current waterfall or agile method on their current projects. So I think you've whet my appetite to learn more about project workflow management. I'm sure many of our listeners are interested in this as well now. So what tips do you have? Maybe 3 to 4 tips and recommendations do you have for them so that they can start thinking more about workflow management on their projects tomorrow? What can they do?
Well, since PM workflow provides the detailed information about all project management processes, examples and guidance to manage projects, it can be used as a reference to both the new and experienced project managers, even if they follow old methodology. Project managers can immediately use methods described in great level of details as many examples, such as cost-benefit analysis, they require requirement management, risk management, issue management, communication, and, everything. The specific recommendation include the following. First, download and use the earned value analysis tool. This will make doing earned value analysis a 3-minute task instead of lots of calculation that everybody is trying to avoid. And I know that I've seen that. Second, download and use risk management tool, which is using risk rating method and confirm results by using the expected monetary value method described in the book. It also allows you, there is some kind of basic of a project plan that you will see the project risk remediation plan is highlighted and you can see and you use it as part of your risk remediation plan. Then I suggest start using quality management process, methods, and technique outlined in the book, such as checklists. This will ensure that all PM processes on your project are followed. There's also many tips provided in the book, and all those tips, they have a header which says note. Some of the tips provide advices for situations when PM is under pressure from management or provide clarification on various issues. Those advices are based on author's personal experience.
Of which we have very much. Maybe too much.
What is too much?
Yeah, we're too old, is that? That's all I'm saying.
All
that's
right.
what
it is. Okay. So you want to be younger, I understand that.
All right. As a reminder, the book is called Project Workflow Management, a Business Process Approach. It is written by Daniel Epstein and Rich Maltzman and published by J. Ross Publishing. It is roughly 300 or so pages thick and it comes as a hardcover. Dan, Rich, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Cornelius.
It was a pleasure.
And that was our interview with Dan Epstein and Rich Maltzman about project workflow management. If you are a project manager who wants to become PMP certified, then the easiest way to do so is, yes, you guessed it, with our sister podcast, the PM Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching the in-depth exam prep video training from pmprepcast.com. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. A quote by none other than Dr. Harold Kerzner himself. Well, it's only fitting because he liked project workflow management so much. Here it is. Project management is the art of creating the illusion that any outcome is the result of a series of predetermined, deliberate acts, when in fact, it was just dumb luck. Until next time.